Yeah, so we have a few good series coming up this weekend, not as packed as previous weeks, but we do have a few good midweeks as well. Starting off with the best midweek series we have with number 11 Gonzaga going to number 2 Oregon State. Starts on Monday, Tuesday series. Great series for both teams that are vying for a hosting spot. And I'd say it's much more important for Gonzaga just because they don't play as tough of conference opponents, with potentially them being the only ones making a regional out of their conference. Oregon State obviously can slip up a bit here and still make up a lot of ground in conference and still host, if not have a super regional spot. But definitely a big series just to see where these teams match up against each other.
Yeah, like you said, not a lot of spots left for Gonzaga to prove themselves, and they're on that fringe of trying to be a host site for playoffs. So getting a couple road wins against a high quality team would be great for the RPI. And Gonzaga currently leads 12-6 in the top of the seventh right now. So good start for them. We'll see if they're able to hold on for this win in game one of the series here. But yeah, quality midweek series here.
Yeah, if they get a split from the series, I'd say they take that as a win, and I feel like a lot of people would accept that as a good result for them. And yeah, so that was the primary midweek series. Then we can jump on down to the big one, at that being number 15 TCU at number 4 Oklahoma State. The best series of the weekend, or at least it should be. Hopefully it is. We'll see what happens, and if this will be the third straight week that we called the so-called best series and it ends up being a sweep. We'll see what happens, but it's an absolutely brutal stretch for TCU that is just ending, and it's the complete opposite for Oklahoma State, where they're just starting theirs. So we'll see how they deal with their stretch going down, but TCU is finally looking to end their brutal stretch.
Yeah, it'll probably end up in a sweep, like you said, somehow. But as of right now, Oklahoma State has separated themselves as the team to beat in the Big 12. But TCU hitting the road headed to Oklahoma State. If they're able to win 2 out of 3, they'll be tied atop the Big 12 with Oklahoma State. So big opportunity for TCU to get on top of the standings there with Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's huge, huge series with a lot of implications for conference and how seeding happens for their tournament going up. But next, we can also stay in the Big 12 with West Virginia at number 7, Texas Tech. West Virginia is relatively close to being ranked, I'd say, if they string a few good series together. And Texas Tech needs to get something going. They've struggled the past few weeks. Even though they swept K-State 2 weeks ago, they lost those midweeks against Grand Canyon, like you said before. And getting swept this past weekend to TCU is just not great for them and has put them in a complete downward trend that needs to be turned around for them to stay in a good spot to host.
Yeah, West Virginia starting to look like they may belong in the top half of the Big 12. Played a quality series against Oklahoma State. Took 1 out of the 3, but played Oklahoma State tight. And this is a good opportunity for them to prove that they do belong in that top half of the conference. And they're facing a team that's struggling right now. So we'll see if they're able to exploit those vulnerabilities on the Texas Tech squad. And then for Texas Tech, like you said, just looking for a rebound.
Yeah, and we can kind of go off what I said about GCU, where this week they play 2 against Stanford in like a round robin sort of situation. Once again, non conference games are much more important for the non Power 5 teams because they just need it to boost their resume. And GCU has done pretty well against those top teams so far. So they're looking to continue that against a really hot Stanford team, and we'll see if Stanford can keep those bats going.
Yep, GCU cracked into our top 25, and they're on the edge for a lot of other polls there, receiving votes. And yeah, similar to Gonzaga, not a lot of series left to prove themselves. So if they're able to get 2 wins over a Stanford squad on a neutral site, I believe all the games are being played in San Diego. It'd be great wins for them. Would really boost the RPI and give them a better shot at making the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. Then we can head over to the SEC for a few good series. This week there were a lot of series that could be really good, but nothing that jumped off the page as something that was a must-watch series that is going to be a highlight no matter what. First off, we have number one Tennessee going to Florida, where Florida's looking to bounce back against the consensus best team in the nation. Tennessee has not looked any worse away from home than they have. So they're just a strong team at home and away. No matter, even though the field dimensions are completely different, and they do have a kind of launching pad at home, but they still play amazing away. And we'll see if they're able to keep that going against a Florida team that has been up and down.
Yeah, Florida's been a super wishy-washy squad this year, but I mean, if you look at the resume, they have some pretty incredible series wins. They've beaten Miami and Arkansas, both in our top five right now. And then they also have a series win over Alabama, who's in that 25 to 35 range. So, I mean, having two top five series wins, they're back at home, so we'll see if they're able to pull off another. It's unlikely, but they certainly have shown that they're able to take down those top teams.
Yeah, it's a test for Florida to not get swept, and if they don't, then I'd say that's a win. Just like any other SEC team, pretty much at this time. If you don't get swept by Tennessee, you're doing your job, and you're at least getting one win, and that hopefully is enough to get some recognition in future polls and hopefully down the line for seeding and making the postseason.
Yeah, and this is the last ranked team that Florida has left on the schedule right now. So if they're able to take care of business, it would be a great opportunity for them to catch some momentum rolling into the home stretch of the schedule.
Yeah, and then staying in the SEC, we have number three Arkansas at Texas A&M. Both of those top two SEC teams on the road this week, and if A&M can pull off the series win, then they have put themselves in a very good spot to be ranked and stay hot from the last weeks against Georgia and continue that for their next series against Vandy. So they're in a pretty brutal stretch with three ranked teams in a row at the moment. So if they can come away with a win against Arkansas, that would be huge for them.
Yeah, Texas A&M, another one of those teams in that 26 to 35 range. I know we've said there's a lot of them, but I promise there's only 10. But yeah, Arkansas on the road at Texas A&M. If A&M's able to pull out the series, I think it's pretty clear they'll be jumping into the polls. And as for Arkansas, they look like they're back on the right track and certainly looking for them to take care of business.
Yeah, definitely. And the last series that I want to highlight is two non-ranked teams, but teams that could be ranked in the future depending on how this series goes, with Wofford at Mercer. Two of the best teams, or I guess the two best teams in the Southern Conference, with both 6-0 records, and are back-to-back in the RPI at 24 and 25. So this means a lot for the conference and the future standings of how things play out with making regionals and further down the line. So this is a prove-it series for both these teams, and if they win, they could potentially make their way into the rankings if things open up for them.
Yeah, certainly could be a decider for making the rankings, and most likely will be a decider for who makes a regional. Both teams have quality RPIs right now, but playing in a conference like the Southern Conference, you know that the RPI can head down very quickly. So if either team slips up down the home stretch, that mid 20 RPI could head down into potentially like the 70s and then not end up making regionals. So big series and could likely end up deciding who makes regionals. So both teams are going to be looking to take care of business.
For sure. Is there anything else you want to add? Any other series you want to highlight for this upcoming weekend?
I think that's all we have.
Really appreciate everybody watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe.